In 2019, a researcher at the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole picked up a severed octopus arm, not a whole octopus, just the arm. She placed it on a table and watched it move, not twitch, not spasm, move. It explored the edge of the table. It recoiled when she touched it with something hot. It reached into a small container and searched for food. Food it had no way of delivering anywhere, because the animal it belonged to was in another room. She watched it do this for over an hour. She said afterward that it was the most unsettling thing she had witnessed in 15 years of marine biology. Not because it was grotesque, because it was purposeful. That word, purposeful, is the problem. Because purposeful behavior requires a mind behind it. And the arm had no mind. The brain was somewhere else entirely. So what, exactly, was running it? Your nervous system is a dictatorship. One brain, one spinal cord, every signal passes through the center. Your fingers do not decide anything. They report upward and wait for instructions. You are, neurologically, a top-down operation. An octopus has roughly 500 million neurons. That is comparable to a dog, but here is the part that breaks the model. 2/3 of those neurons never reach the brain. They live in the arms, clustered into local processing centers, running their own operations. The brain handles navigation, long-term planning, big decisions. The arms handle everything else: what to grab, what to release, how to move through a space too narrow for the eyes to see inside. The arms do not wait for instructions. They are already moving. Researchers confirmed this through isolated arm studies. Severed arms, not fresh tissue still reacting to trauma, but arms hours after separation, continued to respond to chemical stimuli. They changed behavior based on what they encountered. They made choices. Each arm is, in some functional sense, a mind, which means a living octopus is not one animal making decisions. It is 8 arms running independent operations, feeding information back to a central brain that may agree with what they're doing, or may not. But by the time it decides, the arm has usually already acted. There is a philosophical question buried in here that biology has not answered cleanly. If your arm can disagree with you and act on that disagreement before you can stop it, is it still yours? Imagine reaching into a dark bag and knowing, not guessing, knowing exactly what every object is the moment your fingers make contact. Not from shape, from chemistry. Each of an octopus's 2,000 suckers contains chemoreceptors, chemical sensors. They function simultaneously as touch and taste. There is no separation between the two. When an octopus reaches into a crevice in complete darkness, it is not feeling its way through. It is reading a full chemical map of everything it contacts. In real time, across 2,000 points simultaneously. There is no human equivalent for this. The closest approximation would be if your fingertips could produce a detailed molecular analysis of every surface you touched, composition, origin, whether it was alive, how recently it moved, all at once, across all 10 fingers, constantly, without effort. That is the world the octopus navigates. And what that means practically is that an octopus hunting in total darkness is not disadvantaged. It is, in some ways, better positioned than in light. It tastes its prey before it sees it, while it catches it, after it has it. The hunt is a continuous chemical conversation between the animal and everything it touches. Think about what it is like to move through a world where nothing is ever unknown until after the fact, where contact and knowledge happen at exactly the same moment. That is not a variation on human experience. It is a different category of experience entirely. You have a blind spot. Right now, somewhere in your field of vision, there is a gap. The optic nerve passes through the retina and creates a hole in what you see. Your brain fills it in automatically, so seamlessly that you have almost certainly never noticed it. But it is there. It has always been there. The octopus does not have one. Same basic structure. Lens, iris, retina, 2 lineages that separated 600 million years ago independently, arrived at nearly identical architecture. That alone is one of the more striking facts in evolutionary biology. But the wiring is different. In the octopus eye, The photoreceptors face toward the light rather than away from it. The optic nerve exits from the back. No gap. No blind spot. A structurally cleaner design. And then there is the pupil. Not round, not a vertical slit, a W shape. A geometry that, in bright light, allows the octopus to receive visual information from multiple directions simultaneously, controlling light intake from each direction independently. And then there is the thing that makes none of this make sense. Octopuses are colorblind. Every test, across every species, confirms it. Single photoreceptor type. By every established model of color vision, they cannot distinguish red from green or blue from yellow. Yet they produce color-matched camouflage of extraordinary precision. They change color to communicate. They display chromatic patterns during hunting that require accurate color perception to produce accurately. A color-blind animal that sees in color. That sentence should not be possible. The current hypothesis, and it is still a hypothesis, is that the W-shaped pupil at different rotations allows the octopus to exploit chromatic aberration. Different wavelengths of light focus at slightly different distances. The pupil geometry may allow the octopus to use those focal differences to extract color information. In other words, it may see color through physics, through a mechanism that has no name in vertebrate biology because nothing else does it. We do not fully understand how the octopus sees. That is where the science actually stands. There is no skeleton. No rigid structure of any kind except the beak, a small hard point at the center of the arms. Everything else is muscle. Soft, reconfigurable, infinitely adaptable muscle. The practical consequence of this is that an octopus can pass through any opening large enough for its beak. A mature specimen, arm span approaching a meter, body mass of several kilograms, can flow through a hole the diameter of a coin, not squeeze through. Flow. But the skeleton is not the interesting part. The skin has 3 layers of specialized cells operating simultaneously. Chromatophores, pigment sacs that expand and contract to shift color. Iridophores, cells that manipulate light structurally, creating iridescent effects independent of pigment. Papillae, muscular projections that physically reshape the skin surface, producing spikes, ridges, smooth planes, and rough textures on demand. Color, texture, pattern, and reflectivity. All 4 simultaneously, across thousands of individual cells, in under 1 second. But here is the detail that changes what this means. In some species, individual patches of skin appear to respond to light directly, without waiting for the brain. Local responses. The skin detects the environment and begins adjusting before the central nervous system has finished processing what the eyes are seeing. The octopus may camouflage itself faster than it consciously decides to. The skin is not just covering the animal. In some functional sense, it is thinking. The staff at the Santa Monica Pier Aquarium arrived one morning to find the floor wet, not slightly damp. 200 liters of water spread across the floor. The source was a valve inside one of the tanks. The valve had been opened from the inside by the octopus. What followed was a conversation that aquarium staff across multiple facilities have had in various forms, because this was not an isolated event. At the National Aquarium of New Zealand, an octopus named Inky found a gap at the top of his tank, crossed the floor of the facility, located a drain pipe that led to the ocean, and left. He was discovered missing the following morning. He was never recovered. Multiple aquariums have documented octopuses leaving their tanks at night, moving through the facility, entering neighboring tanks to hunt, and returning before morning. Repeatedly. Without being detected until cameras were installed and staff watched the footage in something close to disbelief. Consider what the return trips require: spatial memory of the facility layout, knowledge of which tanks contain prey, and understanding, implicit or otherwise, that returning before morning reduces the probability of detection, and the execution of this across multiple nights, adjusting each time based on what worked and what didn't. That is not instinct. Instinct does not have a learning curve. One technician at an unnamed facility reported that a specific octopus would consistently jet water at her when she entered, and behave normally with every other staff member. It had identified her individually. It remembered the association. It expressed a consistent preference across multiple encounters. It recognized her face. It held something that, in any other context, we would call a grudge. In 2009, researchers filming off the coast of North Sulawesi in Indonesia watched an octopus do something that took several viewings to fully process. It collected coconut shell halves from the sea floor. Not from one location, from several, moving between them. It gathered them, stacked them, and carried them. Awkwardly. The shells made movement difficult. The octopus was slower, more exposed, consuming more energy. It was, by any measure, worse off for carrying them. It carried them anyway. Then it stopped, arranged the shells into a rough shelter, and climbed inside. The carrying produced no immediate benefit. The protection only existed in the future, if and when a predator appeared. Which means the octopus held a model of a future event that had not happened. It imagined being attacked. It prepared for it in advance. It accepted a present cost for a future benefit. Before 2009, the scientific consensus was that this kind of foresight, genuine planning for non-immediate futures, required either extended social learning or a large, socially developed brain. Octopuses have neither. They live between 1 and 3 years. They have no family structure. No parent teaches them anything. The coconut shell behavior was not learned from another octopus. It was not inherited. It appeared, in full, from inside a single animal, within a single short life, without instruction from anything or anyone. We do not have a clean explanation for how that is possible. The behavior exists. The explanation does not yet. The last common ancestor of humans and octopuses lived approximately 600 million years ago. It was simple. Probably something close to a flatworm. No meaningful brain, no complex behavior. Everything that came after, our nervous system, our memory, our capacity to plan, developed completely independently. 2 separate lines, same planet, same ocean, 600 million years of divergence. No shared blueprint after that flatworm. And both lines produced intelligence. Ours, centralized, social, language-based, built on decades of learning passed between generations. Theirs, distributed across 9 semi-independent processors, solitary, without language, rebuilt from scratch inside every individual animal that is born, retained for 2 years at most, and then gone. No octopus has ever learned from another octopus's experience. Everything any octopus knows, it figured out alone, within the window of its own brief life. And yet, they plan, they remember faces, they escape, they carry tools for futures they may never reach. We have spent decades pointing instruments at the sky, looking for intelligence that resembles ours, mathematical patterns, structured signals, evidence of large-scale engineering. The octopus has been on this planet for 300 million years. It does not resemble us in any meaningful way. Its intelligence does not look like ours, does not work like ours, and did not develop like ours. If we cannot recognize what intelligence looks like when it emerges independently on our own planet, in our own ocean from biology we share, what exactly are we expecting to find when we look outward? There is an octopus somewhere on the seafloor right now. Its arms are making decisions its brain has not issued. Its skin is reading light. Its 2,000 sensors are mapping the chemical composition of everything it touches. It will live for another year. Maybe less. It will not pass on a single thing it has learned, and in that brief, unwitnessed life, it is planning for something. We just don't know what.